the first question was about the 24-hour economy and the countries that are implementing that policy. Indeed, there are several countries implementing it, and as you said, Ghana would probably be one of the first in Africa to begin the implementation of this policy. It is not new. For those of you who have access to the 40-year development program, which was passed under my administration, the issue of the 24-hour economy was embedded right in there. And it is meant to accelerate our productivity. It is meant to increase opportunities for employment. And so the example you give for most of those European countries is that they have an aging population because birth rates are falling so low. So even as they accelerate their economies with more shifts to increase production, they don't have the labor to be able to service that 24-hour economic policy. We have an abundance of labor. We have young people willing and able to work. And that is the more reason why we even have a better justification to implement the 24-hour economy. But of course, there are people who come and say, oh, but there's 24-hour economy already. There are some businesses that are working 24 hours. Yes, they are doing that by choice. That just a few of them think that they have the capacity to work 24 hours. So it's just by the decision of the owner of the enterprise that he can implement it. It has never ever been a policy in Ghana. So the difference between what they're referring to, that, oh, some companies are running 24 hours, the difference is that we're going to make it a policy, and it's going to have, the guidelines for that policy and what government can do to encourage more companies to run 24 hours. That is a simple thing. And so we say we're going to bring a 24-hour economic policy. Oh, but we've never had a policy that regulates and guides how we can incentivize companies to do 24 hours. And I said that one of the things we'll do is give them tax incentives. Because one of the things that adversely obstructs businesses in Ghana is our high taxes. And so if you give some of these companies a tax break, it will encourage them to pump more into production so that they can employ more people. And so that's what you also have the issue of safety. Because if companies are working in the night, you must guarantee that they are safe to work. And that is an obligation of government. You don't expect the companies to go and hire security people to come and guard them so that they can work. Government must make sure that it creates a safe environment for the 24-hour economic policy to work. Aside from that, transportation. We need to provide an efficient transport network so that even in the evening, people who have to go to work can get easy, affordable transport to run. And that's why we imported the Ayalolo buses, which today are parked in some graveyard. They were never utilized. Government said they didn't have the money to implement it. But it was a combination of interest between government and the private sector. And so GPRT and all of them were involved. And it was going to run as a bus rapid transit system so that people could catch buses to and from work at whatever time that they close. And so when we come, we're going to revamp all those bus rapid transit systems and buses. Why the 24-hour economy works in some of the developed countries is at any time of the day or night when you go to a bus stop, you get a bus to transport you to work. And so government has some obligations under the 24-hour economy. There are many places that we can easily change into a 24-hour economy mode. The judiciary announced recently that, judges are going to sit later than they have done. And so it will mean that people have access to justice better than if they sit the normal time that they sit. If you go to the ports, when the ships come, even at night, the cranes are working and offloading the containers. But why can't I go and clear my container at night? Do we need more customs officers? Yes. Must we get more bankers so that we can make our payments and clear our goods even at night? Yes. And so there are things that government can do to make the 24-hour economy possible. Government has its obligations, and we are going to make it a policy so that the private sector can come on board and be able to do so. People talk about demand. The demand is there. We import 3 billion worth of food products every year, and some of these things we can produce ourselves. And so you can't tell me there's no demand. If there's no demand, why are we importing? If there's no demand for vegetable cooking oil, why are we importing vegetable cooking oil? It means that the demand is there. And so if we can increase productivity, we can meet the demand, our domestic demand. But apart from that, we've been giving the advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It says register your brand. As far as I know, Ghana has registered 70 products that it intends to export tariff-free into other countries. We can increase the number of products that we're exporting by increasing demand. We have pharmaceuticals. We have a developed pharmaceutical industry. When I was in government, I gave them money to expand their production. Tobinco, NS Chemist, Dan Adams, all of them. They have the capacity to increase production and work 24 hours, both to feed domestic demand and also for export. And like I've said somewhere else, we're going to use government's financial muscle to help Ghanaian-owned companies, Ghanaian-registered companies. Because the market, and I'll give an example, the market for pharmaceutical products, if we give a bias towards Ghanaian-made products, and even if they are marginally more expensive than foreign products, we buy them, we're keeping employment in this country. But if we go and bring those analgesics, we bring those antibiotics, we bring those cough syrups from India and other places, we are exporting jobs to those countries. And so we use government's financial muscle to give an advantage to Ghanaian registered companies so that they can produce more and employ more of our young people. And so that's to do with the 24-hour economy. I've heard this thing said so many times, and I wonder the basis why they say so. The NDC has no social intervention programs. It's the funniest thing I heard. Who brought the District Assembly's Common Fund concept? It was the NDC. We put it in the 1992 Constitution and said 5 to 8% of total government revenue should go directly to the districts for their development. So if you go to your district and the District Assembly has built a school, a KVIP, a nursery, a sports recreation, a community center, it is a social intervention of NDC that has produced that. Who introduced the GET Fund? Mr. Rawlings, NDC. We passed the GET Fund law. But for where would our education be? Most of the educational infrastructure in this whole country is being provided through the GET Fund. And so how can you say we haven't introduced social intervention policies? But in any case, what a social intervention policy is an action or policy that provides social services or social people. And so it's not only GET Fund and other this country. Access to clean drinking water was 58%. By the time we left office, access to clean for Accra alone, we added 40 million more gallons of water. In 8 years, not 1 gallon has been added. And I hear the Ghana Water Company say, oh, Accra is overgrowing a supply of water. A supply because in 8 years you have not added a single gallon to it and brought it in from the other places that had never gotten water for almost 15 years, saw their taps flowing for the first time. Today I'm sure your taps flow twice a week or something. If you don't store water, you will run short. And so we need to invest to bring more water supply, not only to Accra, but to all our growing communities around the country. And so if you are a government and you haven't invested in improving water, definitely access to people will be denied. We've extended electricity more than any government in the history of Ghana. Electricity is a public good. When electricity arrives in a community, it changes the lives of the people very rapidly. People can engage in small-scale enterprises. It was Rawlings who introduced the Rural Electrification Program and the National Electrification Program. And so today, when we say that Ghana has more than 80% access to electricity, it's because the NDC introduced those policies for us to be able to do so. So how can any person say that NDC has not introduced any social intervention? Even the NHIS. NDC started a pilot in Damango and Nkranza for the NHIS. Implementation started in President Kufuor's time. But what President Kufuor introduced was a mutual health insurance scheme. And so your card, your NHIS card, allowed you to access health services only in the district in which you were registered. Today's National Health Insurance Scheme was introduced by Professor Mills. He changed it from a mutual district insurance scheme to a national health insurance scheme so that your card could access health care anywhere in Ghana you go. And so I wonder what is giving these people this idea. You know, I can refer to free school uniforms and free sandals. The free school uniform policy was introduced by Professor Mills. I can refer to the free textbooks for basic schools. When Nana Jane, seated here, was minister, she came and met a situation where 3 children had access to 1 textbook. By the time she left office as minister, every child in basic education had access to 4 textbooks of their own.